Hey everybody. So the other day I did a video about the Philadelphia Flyers and why I thought that they were one of the most interesting teams to watch heading into this coming season because there was such a wide variety of possibilities for how their season could go, and they've made so many moves in the offseason. It's going to be fun to see if they work or if they don't. Well, there's another team like that out west that I also am really interested in and think are going to be one of the most interesting and exciting teams to watch this coming year, just as to whether or not their offseason moves work or not, and that is the Chicago Blackhawks, who have been very active. They have gone out and made some huge moves. Obviously, the Seth Jones move, the Marc-Andre Fleury move kind of topping them off, but it's been a wild offseason for Chicago, and they, similar to Philadelphia, are one of those teams where I don't know if they're going to finish second in their division or if they're going to finish seventh in their division. And I really feel like it could go either way or anywhere in between. And it's all going to depend on, how these guys play and if these moves drastically improved the team product on the ice or not. So I want to talk about Chicago today and take a look at what they've done and talk about why I think they're one of the most interesting teams in the NHL heading into this coming season. Before we begin, I just ask you to please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. It helps out a ton and is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here. Obviously, Chicago did not make the playoffs last year. They were not expected to be a playoff team last year. They didn't have Jonathan Taves for the entire season. Kirby Dach ended up missing a huge portion of the year with a broken wrist because he got hurt in the World Junior Tournament. They actually started the season pretty well. They had a good first half of the year. They were competing for a wild card spot, which is better than what most were expecting. But then they really tailed off at the end of the season and ended up missing the playoffs by a pretty decent amount. And that was much more what was expected with the Blackhawks last season. But then this offseason, they have gone out and made a ton of changes. Let's take a look here. Some very big additions, some very big subtractions as well, as they've brought in defenseman Seth Jones in a trade with Columbus and then signed him to a massive contract, paying him $9.5 million per season. They also traded for goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury from the Vegas Golden Knights, who needed to dump Fleury's contract, so they really didn't have to give anything up, which is obviously to bring in the reigning Vezina Trophy winner for basically nothing is a crazy move for Chicago that you don't see very often, but will definitely have a huge impact and well worth it for the Blackhawks. They also brought in defenseman Caleb Jones from Edmonton, Seth Jones' brother. They signed defenseman Jake Mccabe in free agency. That's a really low-key, nice addition for Chicago that I really think is going to help their defense and be a nice guy to add to that decor. And then they brought in depth forward Jujhar Khaira from Edmonton in free agency as well. He'll kind of be a fourth line center type guy who will bring that bottom line kind of role to the lineup. Not a huge move there, but definitely adds a little bit there, especially given that they've lost some depth guys when we'll talk about here with the subtractions. But first, Duncan Keith, they moved his contract to Edmonton in the deal for Caleb Jones. Obviously, that was a really good move for Chicago. They got Keith out of there, who's been on a sharp decline over the past few seasons and was making way too much money at over $5.5 million. So they were able to move that contract, which was a huge win. They also traded away defenseman Adam Boqvist in the Seth Jones deal. So he goes to Columbus. And he was one of the big player piece that they gave up in that trade. Also gave up some big-time draft picks. But player-wise, Boqvist comes out of the lineup. Forward Pius Suter was not brought back. This was really weird. This was probably the biggest, what move that Chicago made this offseason. Because Suter had a really good season last year. And they just didn't even bother to give him a qualifying offer as an RFA and just let him become a free agent. So that was definitely a head scratcher for me after the year that he had last year. But he is gone. Forward David Kampf is gone. He went to Toronto in free agency. He was a fourth-line guy, but still, depth guy out of the lineup there. And then forward Vinny Hinostroza gone as well as he left in free agency. So obviously some subtractions out of the lineup, but the much bigger moves come on the addition side of things, particularly with Seth Jones and Marc-Andre Fleury. And that's going to drastically change the Chicago Blackhawks team. Now, is it going to drastically make them better? We shall see. Seth Jones, I still have huge questions about, especially given the way he's played the past couple of years. But we're going to have to wait and see. Nonetheless, there were some major changes with the Chicago Blackhawks this offseason. And that, to me, is really what's going to make them such an interesting team next year. Are these moves going to work out? Are they going to significantly improve the team? And if they do significantly improve the team, how much? Chicago was not a playoff team last year. They could be this year. And listen, I've been very down on Chicago's moves. I still absolutely hate the Seth Jones contract. I think it's an absolute joke that he's making $9.5 million per year. There are much better defensemen out there making significantly less than that. But that's beside the point. Is Chicago a better team this year than they were last season? On paper, they definitely should be. Adding in Jones to that decor, adding in Marc-Andre Fleury in goal. I mean, this is a Vezina-level goaltender you've just stuck in your net. Now, he's also getting up there in age, 37, 38 years old. He's getting up there. What's he gonna look like? What's Seth Jones going to be? I mean, if he plays like he did last year in Columbus, I mean, that's going to be a disaster for Chicago. If he gets back to being the 50-point, borderline Norris contention type guy, now you're looking at a huge improvement on that back end. No question about it. You're looking at a huge improvement. Jake McCabe, I like that move a lot, honestly. I really like what Jake McCabe brings to the table. Obviously, he was hurt for most of last year. He's been playing in Buffalo, which, I mean, it's Buffalo. So to see him on a new team, I think you're going to see a big improvement in Jake McCabe. And he's going to get an opportunity to just kind of show what level defenseman he really is. And then you have Jonathan Taves hopefully coming back. That's something that's kind of not been talked about a whole lot this offseason. But Jonathan Taves is coming back, or should be coming back, unless there's any last-minute setbacks or anything. Getting him back could be huge. But the question there is, what Jonathan Taves are you getting back? This guy hasn't played a hockey game in the NHL in over a year. Are you getting the old Jonathan Taves back? Are you getting a shell of his former self back? Obviously he's had a lot of health issues over this past year. What is Jonathan Taves going to be when he comes back? Kirby Dach missed a large portion of last season with that broken wrist. You're presumably going to get a healthy Kirby Dach for the full season this year, and another year older, another year of experience for Kirby Dach. So how good is he going to be? I mean, there's just so many questions with the Chicago Blackhawks team, and that's what makes this such an interesting team heading into this year. What is Marc-Andre Fleury going to look like? Is he still going to be a Vezina-level player without Vegas's defense in front of him? Or is we going to see his numbers drop? What is Seth Jones going to be? Is he finally going to get back to being that top pair guy that he was early in his career? Or are we going to see the Seth Jones from the past 2 years that's been a massive disappointment? Huge question mark there. Obviously Jonathan Taves and his health is a huge question mark. There's just so much with this team. And very similar to like I was saying about Philadelphia, this could go really, really well, or this could go really, really poorly. And again, it's going to be a hard team to predict because I don't know which way it's going to go. If Taves comes back and is healthy and looks like Jonathan Taves, and if Seth Jones is a legitimate top pair guy and gets his career back on track, and if Fleury has another Vezina level season in goal, this could be a team that could easily make the playoffs, finishing second or third in the division and easily make the postseason. or if Marc-Andre Fleury drops off in his age and not having Vegas's level of defense. I mean, Vegas was the best defensive team in the league last year. You know, he's not playing behind that in Chicago. So maybe we see a drop-off in Fleury. If Seth Jones continues to struggle and has a year like he did last season where he was downright brutal at times for Columbus. If Doc, you know, that broken wrist last year maybe sets him back a little bit and he doesn't become the player yet that they were hoping him to be, you know, there could be some setbacks here too, where if things don't go well, this could be a team that finishes as low as 6th or 7th in the division. They could be a wild card team, they could be a divisional playoff team, or they could be a non-playoff team again. This team could go in so many different ways. And again, that's what I think makes them so interesting heading into this year. Are these big moves going to work out or are they not? We don't know. And that's what they play the regular season for. That's what's going to be so exciting about when we actually get to see them on the ice. How good are they going to be? How much better are they going to be? Looking at this roster on paper, this Chicago team should be better than they were last year. But just because they should be on paper doesn't mean that they are. We see that all the time in the NHL, where teams that are supposed to be good end up being really disappointing. Chicago wasn't expected to be anything last year. They weren't expected to be a playoff team. They actually had a really good first half of the season, but then they tailed off back into what they were more expected to be late in the year. This year now, Chicago kind of has more expectations now because of these big moves, because they got Jones, because they got Fleury, because Taves is coming back. Now there's expectations in Chicago, and people are starting to be like, hang on, this team should make the playoffs. Well, what if they don't? It's definitely still a big possibility that they don't. I mean, this team really could go either way. And I think, again, that's what makes this so exciting. That's what's going to make them so fun to watch in the regular season. And what makes, the regular season interesting is which way is this going to go? Are they going to be good? Are they not? Are they going to make the playoffs? Are they not? There's so many questions here with Chicago. And very similar, in this, I was saying the same thing about Philadelphia, where there's this wide range of possibilities of where they could finish. I think Chicago's in the same boat. There's a wide range of places in the division where they could finish. I think they could finish as high as 2nd or 3rd. I think they could finish as low as 6th or 7th. They could finish anywhere in between those. So there's a lot of possibilities here with the Blackhawks, and it's going to be really, really fun to see what happens. Another thing that makes the regular season exciting and that I'm excited for heading into the year is, what is Chicago going to be? I've been down on them this offseason. I've been pessimistic about them. I really don't like the Seth Jones contract at all. But there's no denying there's a chance that this team could be a playoff team. I don't think it's a guarantee, especially in that division. I think it's far from a guarantee, but I can be as pessimistic as I want. This team could still finish in the top 3. There's no question that if things go really, really well and these moves work out, this could be a team that finishes in the top 3. On the other hand, if the moves don't work out, this team could miss the playoffs altogether. And again, that's what's making this so fun and what makes this team such a team to watch heading into this season is what are they going to be? Are these moves going to work out? How much better are they going to be from where they were last year? Are they going to be better than from where they were last year? They should be, but are they? It's the NHL. We've seen crazier things happen. Chicago is a team that I am excited to watch next year because I want to see where they end up. And they're also a team that's going to be really, really hard to predict. It's very similar to Philadelphia. So Chicago, to me, is a lot like the Philadelphia of the West, or pretty much the Philadelphia of the West. Really one of those teams that could finish anywhere in their division, and I really don't know which way it's going to go for them after the big moves that they've made this offseason. So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our Patreon merchandise store donation link and channel memberships are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.